the FIA had a couple of big things happening. I first want to start with the FIA cutting down on the cursing penalties. They posted this pretty self-explanatory breakdown, but I'm going to break it down for you guys. What exactly are the changes? Well, first we have to understand where they were. Originally, they had 10,000 euro offenses with multipliers depending on the championships, which we talked about. I don't know how at length we talked about, but I know preseason we talked about these. They were really controversial back in like January, February when they first dropped. And we both thought that they were basically stupid.
Yeah.
They were aggressive. They were stupid.
We thought they were dumb.
Yeah, they were heavy-handed as hell. They had 10,000 euros of the multiplier of ×4 for the Formula One World Championship. There were potential suspensions being weighed, as well as losses of championship points. So what did the FIA announce today? What did they change? Well, I think we're both going to like these. I think the TLPs are going to like these, but I still have a bit of a grain of salt here, and I'm going to get to it. Monetary fines have been slashed by 50%. So maximum penalties of 10,000 euros reduced to 5,000 euros. The multipliers are also being slashed dramatically. So it's a pretty good start, wouldn't you say? Yeah, pretty fair.
Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah. Like, fines are fines, but, those are more manageable, right? Especially if you're like in some of these lower series.
So read those numbers again.
10,000 dropped to 5, literally slashed in half.
Mm-hmm.
And then the multipliers, they didn't say specifically on the posting on the website, but they have dropped it. Okay. They added discretionary warnings for first-time offenders. So discretion based on control.
That's something that we talked about a lot.
Yeah. Like what's reasonable, what's not reasonable, that kind of stuff. So they're issuing warnings first. So there's no just immediate clampdown. Discretion depending as well on controlled environments and non-controlled environments. So what does that mean? You may be asking. Kevin, ask me that.
I think that means.
I think I know what it means.
Yeah.
So what does it mean? What do you think it means? Go ahead. Yes, go ahead.
I think it means like whenever the drivers are probably driving on the track. I think it means whenever they might be, streaming as Max and all of them like to do. Whenever they're out and not doing press, I think that's what that means.
So that's what you mean for a non-controlled environment.
Yes.
So non-controlled environments are classified as racing or heat of the moment things. Controlled environments are classified as press conferences, interviews, and the like. So pretty reasonable.
Yeah. Which is, but that's what we said. Like,
yeah,
they needed driving to be in the moment. You're literally racing at 200 plus miles an hour. Like, it's gonna slip,
dude. And people have been cussing left and right anyway. It hasn't even very much so been enforced at the Formula One level. But again, World Rallying Championships, these things were being enforced. There was a whole protest over it. And to quote a part of the actual statement itself, abuse of officials will now result in sporting penalties rather than fines, aligning motorsports with other major global sports organizations. So what does this sound like?
Is there precedent for this?
Precedent for this? They cited the NFL. So I think that they're talking about, we're both football fans. If you're a football fan, you'll probably know what we're talking about. The NFL, you know how when you see these post-game press conferences, there's always some crazy call, the losing team, they interview the coach or the players, and instead of saying, like, those refs are blind as bats, they have to go, the referees are just doing the best job they can. That's all I got to say about that. They say a lot of that kind of stuff. Basically, criticizing the officiating of the sport could result in sporting penalties. I can't imagine exactly what that looks like. Maybe there's a time element to this.
That's more of what I was asking is, have we had past incidents of this?
Of them creating sporting penalties or like restricting things?
No, of them. What was the verbiage that they used? Abusing officials.
Oh, I mean, people have been pretty harsh, I would say, overall about the officiating within Formula One, not agreeing with, certain decisions, taking it up with the stewards, that kind of stuff. As far as what is considered abuse of officials, I'm not exactly sure.
Yeah, that's kind of a gray area.
Right. So that's where we come into the discretionary element of this. Like, if you're walking out of a race weekend, you were slapped with like a 10-second penalty in Austria for exceeding track limits 40 times, which is a very easy thing to do in Austria. But you were handed a time penalty, you dropped out of the points, and you said, and I quote, like, I don't know a name of an actual steward, but let's just say his name was John Johnson. John Johnson doesn't have eyes. He's a blind man. Here's where he lives. he has 3 kids and they're all stupid too. Like doing that kind of stuff would probably be termed abuse of a racing official, right? So
Just abused my eardrum.
My bad. I'm very passionate about rules and officiating, but this is going to be handled out pretty discretionary as well.
That's probably the nerdiest thing you've ever said.
What, being excited about rules and officiating?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like, you know, the parameters are important, right? Not seeing anything on suspensions or championship point deductions. This wasn't necessarily addressed, but I imagine there's probably some give as well, considering these things. And again, it all just comes down to the overall penalties being reduced. I would be surprised if there are championship point reductions at any point in any championship with these reductions. So
yeah.
What are your thoughts overall on all this?
Sounds like everything we wanted.
Yeah. So. I think it's fair. I mean, it kind of outlines things too, where maybe if there wasn't necessarily a rule before, now there's kind of a rule. Hey, this is the parameter. This is
there's also,
but they have their discretion.
Kind of in written, it's kind of like written out now, where we can kind of look at it and be like, okay, yeah, that definitely does fall under that line.
This does imply discretion. Where is the discretion within this?
Right. So like beforehand, it was just like, hey, don't commit these penalties, or we'll do something, but you don't really know what we're gonna do because there wasn't any.
Yeah, like I wouldn't
set in stone kind of thing for it. It was just kind of like all up to the opinion of the FIA.
Yeah. So now there's a little bit more parameters for this. I think it's a good reduction. I think the arguments of whether or not these rules really needed to exist, you can debate those, freedom of speech kind of situation about, what's excuse me, my back, what's sensical, what's nonsensical.
Oh man.
I don't know what happened there. I'm glad they eased off the penalties though. And it seemed like it was causing a lot of stress within the sport. Drivers already feel like they can't really say what they really want to say anyway. But this gives them a little bit more ability to be more forthcoming in the ways that they are. But I do want to mention, with a little bit of grain of salt, that they eased out these penalties, and they offer discretion. But again, it's just a matter of like your opinions on free speech there. I was glad this is amended overall.